Cape Town. Today, it's known as the mother city of South Africa. But long before it became a global destination, it was home to ancient African communities. Then, in the mid-1600s, everything changed. When the first Europeans arrived, this is the true story of how the Dutch reached the Cape and how it transformed history forever. Long before Europeans ever set foot on the southern tip of Africa, this region was home to the Khoikhoi and the San people. They were expert herders, hunters and gatherers, living in harmony with the land for thousands of years. The Cape was a vibrant meeting point for different cultures, trade, and migration, a bustling hub long before any European ships appeared on the horizon. The story of this land didn't start with sails and anchors. It started right here, with its original people. So, why did Europeans start sailing all the way around Africa in the first place? In the 1400s and 1500s, European nations were in a frantic race to find new trade routes to Asia. Spices, silk, and other exotic goods were incredibly valuable, like the oil or tech of their day. The traditional overland routes were controlled by rival powers, making them dangerous and expensive. Sailing around Africa offered a direct path to the riches of the East, and right at the bottom of the continent, the Cape became a crucial stopping point, a place to restock fresh water, get food, and make vital ship repairs before the long journey ahead. The very first Europeans to lay eyes on the Cape were the Portuguese. In 1488, an explorer named Bartolomeu Dias sailed past what is now Cape Town. He initially called it the Cape of Storms, and for good reason. The weather there can be fierce and unpredictable. But the name was later changed to the Cape of Good Hope. Why? Because reaching this point gave sailors hope that they were finally on the right track to India and the treasures of the East, while the Portuguese never established a permanent base here. Their voyages opened the door, charting a course that others would soon follow. Then, in 1652, everything changed. A powerful Dutch East India Company, better known as the VOC, decided it needed a reliable halfway station for its massive fleet of ships traveling between Europe and Asia. They sent a man named Jan van Riebeck, along with a small group of Dutch settlers, to establish a permanent refreshment post on April 6, 1652. They landed at Table Bay and founded the first European settlement in what would become South Africa. This single moment marked the true beginning of the city we now know as Cape Town. Van Riebeck and the settlers got to work immediately. They built gardens to grow fresh vegetables, constructed forts for protection, and set up hospitals to care for sick sailors arriving after months at sea. The famous Company S Garden in modern Cape Town was originally created for this very purpose, to supply passing ships with life-saving fruit and vegetables to fight off scurvy. But as the settlement grew, so did its need for land, and that expansion would inevitably lead to conflict with the people who already lived there. Initially, the Dutch tried to trade with the local Khoikhoi people for cattle and other supplies. But as more settlers arrived from Europe, the dynamic shifted. The newcomers began claiming land for themselves, fencing off traditional grazing areas, and pushing the Khoikhoi away from the water sources and territories they had used for generations. This created immense tension, fierce competition for resources, and eventually sparked the Khoikhoi-Dutch Wars. The arrival of the Europeans was not just a meeting of cultures, it was a collision that would change the social, political, and economic landscape of the Cape forever. As the Dutch settlement continued to expand, it grew into a complex, multicultural society. To meet the demand for labor, enslaved people were forcibly brought to the Cape from places like Indonesia, India, Madagascar, and other parts of East Africa. These communities, despite their suffering, profoundly shaped Cape Town's unique culture, its food, its language, and its very identity. Over the next century and a half, what started as a tiny Dutch supply station slowly evolved into a bustling and diverse port city, a melting pot of people from 3 continents. So, the arrival of Europeans at the Cape, a mission that began with a simple need for fresh water and vegetables, spiraled into permanent settlement, cultural mixing, deep-seated conflict, and dramatic, irreversible change. Today, Cape Town is a city that carries the stories of all its people, the Khoikhoi and San, the Dutch settlers, the enslaved communities from across the Indian Ocean, and everyone who came after. It stands as a living monument to a history shaped by movement, meeting, and incredible transformation. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this journey into the past, make sure to subscribe for more stories.